So here's the tea on the less sexy side of travel. Well, it's sexy for me. I don't know how sexy it's going to be for you. My name is Kemi and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things home, which is actually currently Krabi, Thailand, and all things away, which is travel. Yeah. Pre-departure costs. So these are costs I incurred prior to even leaving the country. Firstly, I bought a $29 eSIM from Arilo, which is an online eSIM company. I prefer eSIM to physical SIMs, even though sometimes they're more expensive because I just can't get over the hassle of like putting in a SIM card. Next, we have a flight from Cebu to Coron, which is 139 Canadian dollars, and a flight from Puerto Princesa to Manila cost me $56. So the thing you have to know about Philippines is like you have to book your flights ahead of time, if not they get very expensive, and you have to fly around because there's a lot of islands in the Philippines. So next, we have accommodation. As a rule of thumb, I follow the 60-40 rule when traveling. So although I'm on a budget, I spend 60% of my time in hostels and 40% of my time I actually spend in hotels, Airbnbs, private rooms. And I do this because if I don't, I probably would go crazy. So I spent $450 on accommodations. My highest accommodation was $33 in Friends in El Nido, and my lowest was $13 in Green Turtle in Puerto Princesa. Well, if we're being technical, my lowest was a free stay for 3 days in Manila in one of my friend's houses. So love you, Viv. Thank you so much for that. I also went to Manila during Good Friday long weekend, so it was very, very quiet. And apparently that was the best time for me to go. So it was beautiful. So next we have transportation, which is included and not limited to ferries, buses, and tuk-tuks. And the singular motorcycle rental in Siquijor, that cost me $470. Transportation was more expensive than I intended, so budget for that accordingly. Next, we have entrance fees. So I'm talking port, I'm talking falls, I'm talking beaches, I'm talking tour guides. That cost me roughly, I would say, $30. As I said in my previous video, a lot of places have entrance fees, and please pay the entrance fees. They also have places where you have to like sign your name and your country just for like record keeping purposes. Next, the fun stuff, food. My mom is probably quaking in her boots right now, but I mostly did a 50-50 split between turuturos and restaurants. And turuturos are like small, like Filipino stalls, usually family owned, and I really like it. Didn't get sick once. So I spent $350 on food. Next, we have activity, including falls, hikes, canyoneering, and island hopping. I spent $170 on all of those. I did island hopping in Coron, in El Nido, and in Balabac. Next, we have the 4-day Balabac Expedition I did, which is $380.
Why, hello, it's voiceover Kemi just signing in to share the different expeditions I did while in the Philippines, starting firstly with the Super Ultimate Tour in Coron. I recommend this tour if you're very short on time, which you probably will be because there's not much to do in Coron. This tour takes you on all the highlights like Kayangan Lake, Barracuda Lake, and you stop by for lunch at this beautiful spot. I booked this tour through my hostel and it was a bit on the more expensive side, mostly because it is a very intensive tour that takes you around all the major highlights that I've talked about. So you're out from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's also a very physically intensive tour because there's a lot of snorkeling, hiking, paddling, boating, but I highly recommend you get to see these limestone rocks and these wonderful formation of zebrafish were so insane to me. I was so excited. If you're really into partying and socializing, I highly recommend Tour A with Happy Life Tour in El Nido. We literally did not have a moment to rest, from swimming right up to where our lunch was to always having the aux cord playing. So these tour guides were very hell-bent on making you socialize and have fun. It is less of snorkeling but more of socializing. So if you want to meet new people, have fun, 100% I recommend Tour A with Happy Life. I had hoped to do Tour C, but they weren't offering it, but I'm very glad that I also did Tour A. It was great. This brings me to the best decision I made while I was in the Philippines, which was go on the 4-day Balabac Expedition. Words cannot describe the sublime beauty. Sublime is the word. Sublime beauty. Like, look at that. That is Balabac in the Philippines. It was truly one of the most beautiful places I had ever been. We were a group of 30 and we spent basically 4 days snorkeling, swimming, visiting more remote islands, seeing turtles. Look at the turtles. Look at how close we were today. We saw turtles, we saw starfish, we saw wildlife, and we just spent the days. I I can't even speak. You guys, you need to do the Balabac Expedition. I don't even know who I'm trying to convince here. I don't know who's watching this. But this is truly the best time that you would ever have in your life. There are places that brought me to tears on this expedition because I was like, there's no way our world is so beautiful. And then there's no way that like Philippines, this part of the Philippines is not as toured heavily. It was so peaceful, guys, because we were so little people there. It was so peaceful. The tour guides were so helpful. You could find the expedition mostly on Facebook, mostly as well. You could Google the expedition. I'll put the details on the screen. But everything was included: our transport, our food, drinks. Like alcohol wasn't included, but you could buy that. Our daily snorkeling gear, snorkeling mask, guides, our boat. Look at the starfish. Do you also know how a starfish feels? It doesn't feel like you think it feels. It's actually kind of weird to touch a starfish. Also, the water is the clearest water I've ever seen in my life. I have to tell this funny story. We got to an island where there was starfish literally every 2 steps, and I was so scared of stepping on one. I had to stay afloat for like most of it because starfish feel so weird. They feel like human skin, but like weirder. But it was still so wonderful to see. I met the most wonderful people and we are still friends till date. You get to make lifelong friendships because you're basically stuck on a remote island for 4 days. Look at the water, guys. What's that saying? If I cannot see under the water, I'm not going in. You can see, but probably don't open your eyes because it's very salty. Guys, look at, okay, I'm just gonna stop talking now. On the last day, we saw one of the most alive coral reefs I've ever seen in my life. It was so beautiful. The videos don't do it justice, but you get to interact a lot with nature and wildlife. And because it is one of the more remote expedition, it is to be expected that you're not going to be in a 5-star resort. We literally camped in tents on the beach, and that was our bathroom. It was not great, but it was still great. Till date, these are some of my best travel buddies, and it was so wonderful to disconnect from technology for 4 days and just connect with each other. I highly recommend the Balabac tour.
So next we have miscellaneous, so laundry, medicine, accessories, hospital. That cost me $50, I would say. And my most unexpected expense was the transport. My forgotten expense, or the expense that I didn't really take account for, but I know it plays a big role, is ATM fees. So the conversion rate is roughly $1 Canadian to 40 Filipino pesos, but then you have to take into account withdrawal fees, you have to take into account conversion fees. So I just let those slide, and I usually budget for a margin of error with those. So I budgeted $2,250 for the Philippines, more like $2,000 with a margin of error for $250. I exceeded that margin of error by 10% or $100, so I spent $2,350 roughly in the Philippines. However, I visited 8 places with that budget, and given that this was my first country and the most expensive one, I'm actually going to be giving myself a lot of grace. But yeah, I love my time in the Philippines. It's insane because now I'm in Thailand and it's hard not to compare. But I'm in the south of Thailand. I'm enjoying it so far and I'm having such a relaxed time so far. But I will see you in my next vlog. Bye.